Good afternoon, good evening. This is Harlem Network News, and I am Terri Wisdom. And as many of you know, Harlem Network News started at the onset of COVID, and we are still here. We consider ourselves truly an essential service. At the onset of COVID, we really just had to jump into the deep water when we saw that mainstream media was just not covering our community. And folks were walking around Harlem thinking, I'm Black, I can't get it. And that caused a disastrous situation when next we had body bags. And that is solely because they did not see their cells. So we can understand how important and how critical media is. And we find ourselves right now in another critical media situation, which there's one right after the other, as we approach the 2024 presidential election and the down ballot election. And obviously, November 5th is election day, and we are in early voting here in New York State. Many other states around the country are as well. But we have really a special interview today surrounding the presidential election and the election. And it's very significant. We're here with the co-founder of the Green Party, and that is in the person of Gloria Mattera. And we also have with us one of our Harlem residents, entrepreneur, longtime activist, in the person of Bernardo Ruby. And we really want to salute Mr. Ruby, because this interview really came about when Mr. Ruby went to early vote, and he was choosing to vote for the Green Party, and he encountered some encumbrances. So first, if you would just say hello to our audience, co-founder Gloria, and then we'll have you say hello to the audience, Mr. Bernardo Ruby, and then we're going to move forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Terri. It's wonderful to be here. I'm actually the co-chair of the Green Party of New York. I have been a Green Party member and run for office myself over the past 20 or so years. But, you know, the Green Party in New York was actually started in 1996. It became an official party and has continued then. We could talk a little bit about our ballot issues, you know, later on. You know, for myself, I'm a healthcare worker, public health worker. And I realized early on working in the public system that we needed healthcare for all. And then soon learned after that the Democrats and the Republicans were not going to make that happen. We needed independent political candidates to be elected to do the kind of work that we're hopefully going to talk about over this interview, what the important issues for people, planet, and for peace, not for profit.
Okay. And thank you, Mr. Ruby. If you would just say hello to our audience and just share a little bit about your thoughts and connection to the Green Party, and then we're going to do a deep dive so folks can be informed. Yeah. Knowledge is power.
Yeah, thank you for the great work you do. Harlem Network News is an integral part of the Harlem community and a vital part of the information that is being disseminated above and beyond, and sometimes exclusively from the corporate media. So we're very thankful to you for the work that you do. And of course, we are thankful for the Green Party for their advocacy over the years, representing an alternative to the Republican and Democratic Party.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. And we are going to go back to you, Gloria. And if you could just tell us, you said since 1996, but can you tell us what the pillars of the Green Party platform are and why it actually came into fruition? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I also want to acknowledge that it is wonderful to have alternative media, especially focused on the issues in the Black community. And I didn't know that you started COVID. Sounded like a very, very important initiative. So it's wonderful.
Okay, and interesting because as you share, you're in the healthcare business, so you probably have a very great understanding of
Yes.
why it was
Yes.
so necessary. And once we were there, you know, I mean, these issues, my background is in film and television for many years, and the coverage becomes less and less, and the news and information has become less and less. So
It's true.
critical.
The Green Party in the United States also started in the 90s, and that there's great history, you know, at gp.org, but it, you know, in quickly, it's just that, you know, a group of social justice, environmental activists, you know, different organizations coming together, you know, from the 80s into the 90s, having conversations about these important issues, about the issues they were working on, and how can you, you know, bring that together, and, you know, with the power of, you know, elections, right? Which, you know, many times activists are working in their different issues, but when it comes time to candidates, they don't have that choice that's representing those issues. So the Green Party of the United States was formed, but it's formed as a federation of state parties. Here in New York, we got our ballot status. There was lots of conversations in the earlier 90s, but in 1996, we ran our first candidate for governor, became a Green Party in terms with a ballot line, and kept that until the next election, gubernatorial election in 2002, when we didn't gain enough votes. We continue to function as a political party, but as an activist party, which is really, you know, our roots. That's how we distinguish ourselves, I think, from the two parties of Ware and Wall Street. And then in 2010, myself and Howie Hawkins ran as governor. I ran as lieutenant governor. We once again got our ballot line back, and we have had that until the most recent change in the election law.
Okay, and if you would just share a little bit, is the Green Party across the country, across the United States? Can we find the Green Party there? Did the Green Party start in New York State? It's a question.
Oh, it didn't start in New York State. I think the kind of maybe early the beginnings were in Maine, but the Green Party is in almost every state in the country in a variety of ways. Sometimes it's a ballot status party, sometimes it's not, but it's, you know, it's a state party. There are numerous state parties. So we do, you know, every state has different election laws. And so you are often beholden on that. But you did ask me about the key value, the 4 pillars. And those 4 pillars are for every Green Party. Also, they're similar to the ones in other countries who are older in terms of formation of the Green Party. But it is ecological wisdom, you know, the importance of the environment, of ecology, and living on, you know, on this planet with other species, social and economic justice, peace and nonviolence, and we would call grassroots democracy participatory democracy in terms of elections and making decisions as a community.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And this is Harlem Network News, and I'm Terri Wisdom. And those of you who are just joining us, we've got a really robust conversation, cutting edge journalism coming right here out of Harlem. We are here with Gloria from the Green Party, and we're here with Bernardo, one of our Harlem residents, who, Bernardo, we can swing to you. How did you become interested in the Green Party? You know, or did it just happen for this election? If you would just share. Thank you, because you're the person who brought this Green Party story to our attention based on your experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Green Party has been, as Gloria said, in the election process of New York City. I had the honor of listening to Miss Stein, the current candidate for president, on the television program when they broadcasted their convention. I think that was in, when was that, Ms. Gloria?
It's August, the weekend of August the
Yes,
17th.
yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
And I was really, after following them for many years, but I was extremely impressed with their platform. I was impressed with their presidential candidate, and I was equally impressed with their vice presidential candidate. Their backgrounds, their commitment to the policy, and their commitment to change and alternatives to the two-party system that we are currently really suffering a lot for in the Black community.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your perspective, Mr. Ruby. Gloria, and would you state your title again? Because I don't want to get it wrong.
Co-chair of the Green Party of New York.
Okay, co-chair of the Green Party of New York. Okay, so we mentioned a bit about the convention for the Green Party, which I trust is like the presidential convention. And if you would share a little bit about that, and then just share with our audience, out of that convention rose your presidential candidate. And if you would share a bit about the candidate, the vice president candidate, and what are some of the platforms and policies that that candidate is running on? Thank you.
Sure. We have a process where people who are interested in running as a candidate seeking the Green Party nomination, we have criteria for that. Presidential Campaign Support Committee, has something that all interested parties can fill out. There's certain expectations for everyone. There's no corporate money. There is an expectation that you're not enrolled in one of the two parties of War on Wall Street. You don't have to be a Green Party member necessarily, but you have to be an independent voter or another kind of independent party that fits with what our vision and what our criteria is. But Dr. Jill Stein, who is the current presidential nominee, she was that presidential nominee in 2012 and 2016. So she is known to the party. She actually jumped into the race later than expected because people may know at one point Dr. Cornel West was seeking the Green Party nomination and joined with us, but then decided he was going to do it independently. Which is challenging when you need a party behind you to really be able to do that. And so, but Dr. Stein was nominated just really by every delegate, just about at our convention.
Thank you.
Yes. And she selected her vice presidential running mate, and that is Dr. Rudolph Ware, who goes known as Butch Ware. He was a Black Muslim academic activist who is just a perfect running mate for Dr. Stein. We think that, these are the only candidates that have a pathway to winning enough electoral votes to win, who stand against the genocide that's happening. Not, of course, currently in Gaza, but we know that is happening in other countries too, Sudan as another example.
Okay, thank you for sharing that, because that's very interesting. I encourage all of our audience to search up, and we're going to be putting up some information about Dr. Jill Stein, the presidential candidate, as well as Dr. Rudolph Ware, the vice presidential candidate. And thank you for sharing the information regarding Dr. Cornel West. But what you said is very interesting. And Bernardo, you may want to chime in on this, because, we know that here in the United States, we have the popular vote, and then we have the electoral college vote. And really, even if you win the popular vote, you need the electoral college, you need 270 votes. So you said that these candidates actually may have that opportunity to pull those electoral votes. So if you would share, you know, the space there, because this is, you know, I'm a student here, you know, in terms of that, because, you know, it's kind of like you think, okay, there are two major parties, Democratic, Republican. We've got Kamala Harris at the top. We've got, you know, Donald Trump at the other top. And it's appearing that, you know, it's between the two of them. But when you raise this issue of electoral college, that becomes a whole new picture, because, you know, for some people, they're like, okay, well, if we have major Democratic and Republican, like where do these other parties fit in? Like, how could they possibly compete? So maybe you want to share that, and maybe you, of course, would like to chime in, Mr. Ruby, bringing this story to us. Thank you.
So I just want to say that on record, the Green Party is, in our platform is, we believe the Electoral College should be abolished. We do not.
Okay.
And we have heard little inklings of that from the Democrats on and off. That's usually when they win the popular vote, but they don't win the Electoral College, but then they don't do anything about it. But it's really looking at the Green Party candidates are on 38 ballots, 38 state ballots. Then there are 8 write-ins, which one, New York is one we can talk about at some point. And then there's a few states who weren't able to meet that criteria to get on the ballot. So if you look at how many states that your candidate is on, you know, that means that there is a possibility you can obtain enough electoral votes in those states.
Okay.
Right. Obviously, we know that it's more of a challenge. It's a big hurdle. But the momentum around this campaign, which is really fueled, I think, both by what is happening internationally that is not being addressed in this country, or being addressed in a way that is shocking to many of us, that the kinds of the billions of dollars of weapons being sent and funded, you know, for the Israeli genocide against the Palestinian people, but also that the decision that, you know, money can be used here, and thinking about what happens around healthcare. I know you in particular, you know, we referenced COVID, you referenced really the challenges early on in the Black community. And we know that COVID basically blew the, you know, the thin veneer of what was going, that there's any equal healthcare here. We know there have been disparities based on race for a very long time, but when COVID happened, there was no hiding what communities were decimated by this pandemic.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And once again, for those of you who are just joining, I'm Terri Wisdom, and I'm here with the co-chair of the Green Party, and one of our Harlem residents who brought this story to us through his experience in trying to vote in the Green Party. So we always say, and that COVID, it was horrific, but it actually took the scab off the wound and really opened up to the world, like, all of this disparities in every single way that were happening. So if there's anything that came out of COVID, it made us know what was going on. And then once you know, you begin to address what some of the key issues are. Mr. Ruby, would you like to chime in, you know, just in terms of, you know, you choosing the Green Party, and, you know, how impactful you think your vote can be? And you had some questions in terms of what strategies does the Green Party have to engage Black voters? And how do you ensure the voices are effectively represented within the party? Thank you.
Well, I think it's important to let the electorate know that there's a particular way in which you can manifest your vote for the alternative parties, and in this case, the Green Party, on the ballot that is currently being provided to voters. And I'm sure the co-chair will explain to us exactly how that should be done. This is extremely important because we want to make sure that those who choose to exercise their voting rights in a party other than the Republican or Democratic Party are able to do so and make sure that their vote is in fact counted in the way they wish. So I will not take up too much more time because our guest is vital to the electorate and making sure that we're given the proper guidance. I just wanted to state that back in the 80s, I think it was, there are many efforts to establish alternative parties and for candidates to run. And we can speak about the Gary Convention and many ways in which the Black community had attempted to establish an alternative to the Democratic and Republican Party. But I think that it's important that the community seriously look at an alternative party to the Republican and Democratic Party. And I'm hoping that the Green Party will invest, along with your organization, Ms. Wisdom, in really reaching out to the Harlem community and beginning to build the momentum that will enable them to gather the signatures and other things that will be required to put the party back on the ballot. But I would be glad if Gloria, you could explain what voters should do. I think that was your question, right, Ms. Wisdom?
Yes, yeah, and that's very important in the time frame because maybe Gloria, you want to share a little bit. I know you shared that the Green Party is on the ballot in 38 states, and then there are 8 states where you can write in, and then I assume the balance of the states do not have the Green Party on the ballot. So I think it's very important in a states where they can actually vote and it's on the ballot, and you can direct people as to how they can find out. But right now, we are addressing Harlem and what we call Harlems of the world, and that's really Black people or brown people, but also places that are like a Harlem, experiencing the disparities that we're experiencing a lot of the frustrations that people are having in terms of just trying to make change and the struggle to actually live in this kind of society. So that encompasses people all over the world. But if you could just share the write-in situation, because here in New York State, it's a write-in situation, and what that history has been about and why. Thank you, Gloria.
And I want to thank Mr. Ruby for going to exercise his right to vote for the party he wanted to, the candidates he wanted to. And unfortunately, the information about what happened to the Green Party here in New York has not been well publicized, mostly because the mainstream media is not interested in that and doesn't want to mention us. And so, we are, as I said earlier, each state has their own election laws. Our election law here in New York had us getting 50,000 votes to keep our ballot line for our gubernatorial candidate every 4 years. When we fell short in 2002, we were able in a later cycle to collect the 15,000 valid signatures of registered voters in New York to get our candidate on the ballot and then win those 50,000 votes. That was in 2010. Interestingly, during COVID, the former and let me say disgraced governor, Andrew Cuomo,
Mhm.
Really wants to control the narrative to make people think he's a progressive governor. He doesn't want challenges from the left. The Green Party had been successful pushing him to ban fracking in New York. We were very instrumental in that movement. And
Okay.
he changed the election law and he put it in the emergency COVID budget, where of course the state legislature was going to vote for that. No one really read the fine print. No one really stood up for the Green Party or for smaller parties in general. And it changed where we had to get 130,000 votes in the even years, gubernatorial and presidential, or 2%, which whatever was greater of the votes cast before that. Oh, and then when that we were unable to do that in 2020, the next thing to do, get our presidential candidate on the ballot in 2024 was to get 75,000 ballot signatures in 6 weeks. We are
Wow.
we've moved to become the most onerous ballot access state, way above any of the most of them in the South. Maybe Texas, similar. Georgia is also very difficult. And we were unable to get that. We got close with 100 volunteers, but spending a lot of money, both with the campaign and the state party, but unable to do that. So that's why we're not on the ballot. We have sued in the past. We were not successful on the first lawsuit. We are still pursuing legal avenues again. Of course, it doesn't help for November. So what we do have is we file for an official write-in where the Board of Elections will be required to count every write-in vote. And the way that happens, I think across the state, the ballots may look a little bit different. Some of there's going to be a blank space after all the other presidential candidates are
Okay.
voted. Fill in that little bubble if there is one, just like if you're taking your SAT.
Okay.
And then you have to write in Jill Stein. You can also write in N. Rudolph Ware, but if you just write Jill Stein, because for some people maybe it's a lot to remember, that would still be counted.
Can you
Okay.
spell that, please, so that I'm sure spelling and making sure that the vote is counted, that we spell her name properly?
Yes, so Jill, Jill, Stein, Stein.
Okay. And do you have to write in the vice presidential candidate as well? Or does that come as a grouping?
You can also write his name in, but it's not required. And we have been asked that by people because they felt when they're encouraging people to do a write-in, having to have those two names to get in there and write them down. But we check with the Board of Elections and they will accept Jill Stein because they are a ticket. Vote for the president is a vote for the vice president.
They're a one ticket. Okay.
Yes. So we'd love for you to spread that word. It's really important and it's on our website, gpny.org, on how to do the write-in.
Okay. Thank you.
Green Party, the initials gp.org, and that's what voters can go to that website for more information, I presume.
Yeah, gp.org.org is the national party where you can get a lot of information about all the different states and about Dr. Stein and Dr. Ware. gpny.org is Green Party of New York, where you actually have a little video or explanation about how you do the write-in here in New York.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. It's very important. And once again, we want to thank Mr. Ruby really for bringing this story. And that's really exciting for us because coming out of grassroots and news and information, we do rely on our audiences and the community to really let us know what's happening. And if you would share a little bit about your experience, Mr. Ruby, when you went to vote, because it appears that the Board of Elections really needs to get on top of this. And we're in early voting, so we're hoping that it's happening as we speak. So if you would just share a little bit about your experience.
So the staff of that is manning the election sites are not familiar with the Green Party at all, and I mean they should be, but it's understandable that they might not. So the voters have to take the initiative and of course be pre-educated so that they understand that, that segment at the end of the column, the presidential column, there is a bubble, and you darken that, which says you're going to write in the candidate, and at that in that segment, you write in the name of the presidential candidate, which is Jill Stein, and that hopefully will enable you to record your choice of the Green Party as for the presidential election choice.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Did
Go ahead.
they actually tell you that you had a right to write in the candidate you wanted? Because there have been polling sites that'll say things like, "Oh, there is no Green Party candidate. You pick somebody else." So just curious.
That was the case. I have a little experience in writing in candidates, so I clearly went immediately to the extreme right. And that's where you have the choice of doing that. Yes, there was no indication or support to writing in the candidates. The staff there, I'm sorry to say, were not acquainted with the writing process. They did not encourage it, and they did not provide any guidance at all in terms of how to go about that. So that should be an issue that should be taken up with the Board of Elections in terms of training the staff and making sure that they do not dissuade people from exercising that option.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that's very important as we sit in America, a democracy. We want it to be a democracy. This is Harlem Network News, and I'm Terri Wisdom, so that people can actually have a choice. I have a question for you, Gloria. Throughout the country, do we actually have people in a variety of offices that are part of the Green Party officially? If you could share that, please. Thank you.
Yes, I think now there's probably about 155, maybe 165 elected Greens throughout the country. Many of them are in town boards, school boards. We don't have that here in New York anymore. Some small mayors in smaller villages and towns. And so we tend to do well in the smaller elections. Local elections where we can really connect with the voters, but we do have candidates running for the higher offices, mayor, governor, Congress, but we do have elected officials. And over the years we've been running, we have just maybe under 2,000 Greens that have been elected over the years.
Okay, that's pretty powerful. And for these people, because I believe that I met someone, and I've got to follow up with her. When I was out covering the Democratic Convention in Chicago, I think they had some kind of conference with the Green Party, and I met someone who was in a smaller town in Pennsylvania. And I'm not sure what her position is, but she was with the Green Party. So very interesting to share that. But quickly, because I know we don't have
Pennsylvania, one of the states where the Green Party is on the ballot.
Yes, we are on the ballot in Pennsylvania. As you know, that I think the Democrats, that's their favorite state. They can't get out of there. They're there every day. They seem very worried. But as I think it's been clear that the Democratic ticket, Harris and Walz and the party in general are just not delivering. They're not listening to what people want. They don't want genocide abroad. They want to have a single payer healthcare system that's affordable and accessible and of high quality. We don't want a militarized police. We want people to have the right to speak their mind, the right to organize in terms of unions. We want a living wage for people. A minimum wage is pathetic compared to how things cost these days. And so if you're going to be tone deaf to the voters, then I guess you should be worried that even someone as reprehensible and incompetent as Trump is closing in some of these states, because you know that situation has been created by not giving people what they need, you know, to live in this country.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that full information, you know, especially regards to Pennsylvania. Where are you all in some of the other, quote, battleground states?
Well, the presidential ticket is on the ballot in several of the swing states. You know, you also notice that when you're thinking about, particularly in Michigan, you know, it's a very, very large Muslim population. The Muslim community has been very supportive of the Green Party, and Dr. Stein and Dr. Ware in particular, because they have been, you know, standing up and showing up. Dr. Stein was brutally arrested at one of the campus.
Wow.
The encampments, along with many young people who were expressing how they felt about the, you know, colleges and their participation in terms of support of Israel funding. And so, you know, they really see that she and her running mate are very committed to this. And, you know, we have looked the same thing as Dr. Stein, you know, said feelings about Cop City, right? You know, having, you know, that is something that we have to push back. We have to be opposed. And it's not, obviously, it's the big focus has been in Georgia, Atlanta, but, you know, that's starting to spring up in lots of other cities where we need to stop this militarized police presence, particularly in our Black and Brown communities, as you mentioned earlier. I will say that Dr. Stein and Dr. Ware, part of their, you know, Black liberation agenda, talks about reparations.
Okay, thank you. That's the next
I think they've calculated it's about $12 trillion that is, but there's no debate anymore whether reparations should include monetary compensation. That's what it needs to be. Of course, there are many other things to address, but that is in the platform. There's a full agenda about that, obviously looking at policing issues, and then overall housing, education, healthcare, right?
Education
around the country, of course, you know, the communities where there has been systemic racism are suffering even more. So those are things that have to be addressed for everyone. But reparations is a part of the, you know, encourage people to look at Jill Stein 2024. There is a whole agenda called the Black Liberation Agenda.
Okay, thank you for that. And
may I ask, of the key states, which are some of the other ones where you're present, so that listeners in those states could exercise their choice?
Well, 38 states where you can vote for our candidates right on the ballot. Now you're going to make me remember back from elementary school.
Okay, I think they can Google it. It's right there.
They all,
and we'll try to put it up. We'll try to
like,
put it up on our platform.
Yes, and I can always send you that.
We'll absolutely put it up on our platform.
How about if I tell you where the write-ins are besides New York?
Okay.
So
Okay.
write-in in New York, Illinois, Kansas, Wyoming, Iowa, and Vermont. And some of those reasons are because either the like in New York, the bar was set so high to keep us out of contesting elections, but in other places we did what we needed to do, but we were taken to court mostly by the Democratic Party in those states, and thrown off for a variety of technicalities. So if they can't stop you with the election law that are unfair, they will try with their $1 million lawyers to get you off the ballot, instead of, you know, just say again, instead of presenting the kinds of candidates that will do the things that are needed in this country around housing, around education, around healthcare, peace, safe communities, all the things that I think the Green Party is talking about, that your audience is interested in, that you as a media network, local, you know, caring about the local community issues are talking about.
Okay. We're just going to have a little wrap up, because we know that you've got to get on to your next interview or meeting. But we've kind of heard Donald Trump say stuff like, "Oh, thank you, Dr. Jill Stein, because you're like mucking up the votes and making more votes for me," or something to that effect. How do you weigh in on that kind of thing? I mean, we know it's all media optics, but
Right. I think the important thing for all of us to remember is that no vote is owed to any particular candidate. You know, there had been Democrats that, you know, voted for Republican presidential candidates. There will be Democrats possibly voting, you know, for Trump this time around. There will be Republicans voting for Kamala Harris. But to say that the votes for the Green Party take away the votes that belong, and that's what they're saying, that belong to Harris, is just disingenuous and not true. To say that if we throw the Greens off the ballot, then everybody who would have voted Green, Mr. Ruby, myself, will just go and vote Democrat, and that is not true.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, you know, yes, Trump says kind of insane things, and he's picking on the fact that obviously Dr. Stein's popularity in states where it's a close race may make a difference for him. But the point is, people need to vote for who represents them in terms of their vision. What kind of society do they want to have? What direction do they want this country to go in? And that's why I think what the Green Party is saying and Dr. Stein is saying is resonating.
Okay, all right.
And they should not be concerned about what impact it has on either the Republican or Democratic Party. The impact is their vote and them exercising their right and freedom of choice.
Well said.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And Gloria, if you would just, in wrapping up, what do the stats look like in terms of being able to get those electoral votes and possibly win? What does it look like? If you
No,
know.
we're often not in the polling. You know, what we'll hear a lot is kind of the, you know, what the margins are. You know, the pundits talk about that. It's, you know, I'm not a political pundit to do predictions. I just know in certain communities, the Green Party message, Dr. Stein, Dr. Ware's message is resonating. The most recent poll about political parties is 63% of the people want more choices on the ballot. In New York, there's going to be 2 names you're going to see, and that's it. It's going to be Harris. It's going to be Trump. We're going to see no other candidates, even though there are several running. That. And I think that, you know, we have a pathway. Whether that pathway has too many obstacles, I think that a strong vote in the states around the country, I think a strong write-in vote where the Board of Elections will be required to count those votes needs to send a message. It's an important message.
Okay, and you mentioned initially, just so that people are clear, that Dr. Cornel West was originally on the Green Party and then went on an independent. So is he on the ballot in states too, or is this
very
Cornel West or Dr. Jill Stein?
Yeah, he's on very few. I don't know which ones. There's some states that it's fairly easy to get signatures to get on the ballot. But not really. We haven't heard much from his campaign lately. You know, we obviously honor him for the work that he's done over the years. So I'll just tell people in New York voters, you can do what Mr. Ruby did, which is you go all the way over. That blank spaces are right, fill in the bubble and write Jill Stein. And if you have the, you know, have the wherewithal, also you can write Rudolph Ware, but if you write Jill Stein in that blank column for president, it will be counted.
Okay, and Mr. Ruby, we're gonna have you wrap up. You had a question. How does the Green Party ensure diverse representation within its leadership and candidate state or specific mentorship or support programs within the party to amplify Black voices and leaders?
My question, I'll make it far simpler than that. And to ask Gloria, I mean, we those of us who are seeking alternatives to the two-party system would like to participate, support, be active in your party. Can you tell us tell our audiences, our voters who would be very, 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 I think, enthused to support, participate, work with your organization? How do we go about that? Are there weekly meetings? Are there opportunities for people to work, even to run as candidates for their local seats? If you could just give us a couple of words of wisdom on that.
Sure, thank you. Well, first of all, we continue to work to diversify and reach out into different communities in the Green Party. So I will say on the national level, we have the official Black Caucus. People don't have to be part of a state party or anything else, but to be Greens, but that's a national. You can join, and they have virtual meetings. If you go to gp.org and look for the caucuses, you will see that one. There's also a Latinx caucus. There's our Lavender Caucus for our LGBTQ plus members. And so here in New York, we do some of the counties are officially, affiliated with the state. We have one in Brooklyn, one in Manhattan. We have Greens in Harlem. Definitely situated in Harlem. So if you go to gpny.org, you could sign up for updates. You can sign up on our volunteer form, and then someone in your area will contact you. And I guess personally, I want to say I live in Brooklyn, work in Manhattan, that I would be happy to come with a couple of Greens and, to a community meeting or an organization that's already wants to do some work together. We do it differently than the Democrats and Republicans. We don't tell you what your issues are in communities. We want to come and listen. We want to understand better what the needs are. If we're not meeting those needs, we're a small party, so sometimes we may not always focus on every area, but we definitely want to partner that way. I think that Ms. Wisdom has my email. Mr. Ruby,
Yes,
if you want to
absolutely.
contact me.
Okay.
Or same thing with, we also would like to promote what the network is doing, because as you said, we need alternative media.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I feel a little calmer having had this conversation. I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News, because there's just a lot of unrest at this point. I think everybody has unrest, and with the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and some issues, as you stated early on, just really not being answered. The situation of Gaza, and the just genocide, Sudan, Ukraine, and money flowing out, and the communities really struggling, and the voices needing to be heard. And especially as we sit in the belly of the beast of New York City, and we look at what is going on here with education and the real impact of, quote, the asylum seekers, and, just the lack of support. I mean, there is so much to talk about, and concerns in terms of what are or can the public officials do. So it's a thing that I think a lot of us are sleepless and really want to fix. I mean, everybody wants the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And everybody wants that. And then, as you said, for the the Black people, reparations is a real thing, and it's got to really be economic, because that's the only thing that's going to infuse and shift the balance. So, thank you for the support. Harlem Network News is here. We are constantly fundraising, trying to get support, funding, GoFundMe, Zelle, Cash App and, whatever other kinds of things, because it's become very apparent in this race that Black media is having to bring, as our Shirley Chisholm said, we're having to bring our folding chair to the table, make a way out of no way, and quoting Fanny's sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's real. So, Mr. Ruby, any final words? And we're gonna
thank you. Just thank you for the Green Party representative responding so quickly.
yes.
Certainly, that's a tribute to you. Please give our warm Harlem regards to Jill and Mr. Repeat his name.
Where?
Oh,
Yes.
Mr. Ware?
Yes. Tell him that the
Uh-huh.
people of Harlem are with them, and their success is our success.
Okay, and we look
Thank you.
forward to having them on Harlem Network News at some near point.
Mhm.
So thank you very much, and good luck with the election. And please let us know how or if there are any candidates right here
You have to come back
in New York City, and we'll have you come back. And we thank you for just coming on so quickly, answering the call and the phone. But we knew that it was really important in this early voting, and given what Mr. Ruby experienced, that we get you on right away so our audience is informed.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Okay, so have a great day, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Mr. Ruby. Thank you. We'll be in touch. Thank you.